My name is Melissa Rosa. I'm 35 years old, and I used to think being the responsible one was a compliment. In my family, it really meant the person we can drain without feeling guilty. I was washing dishes on a random Tuesday when my mom called. No hello, no small talk, just her voice cutting straight through the steam and running water. Thanksgiving will be small this year, she said. Just adults. That was it. One sentence, like she was commenting on the weather. I wiped my hands on a towel and pressed the phone tighter to my ear. Okay, did something happen? Is somebody sick? Are you traveling? She didn't even pause. No, it's just easier this way. Easier. She said it in that light, breezy tone she uses when she's already decided and doesn't plan on explaining. Like canceling a coffee date, not canceling my daughter. I looked over at Emma on the couch, her feet tucked beneath her, hair still damp from her bath as she colored dinosaurs and neon markers. My 9-year-old, who had been talking about Grammy's stuffing and Grandpa's too sweet pumpkin pie for weeks. Easier how? I asked, trying to keep my voice flat. You know how loud it gets. The kids, the mess. It's just too much this year. We're keeping it simple, adult only. We'll do something with Emma later, maybe. She said my daughter's name like it was an afterthought. And I knew, the way you know exactly what someone means without them saying it out loud. Easier meant no Emma. Easier meant no me. Easier meant the preferred chaos of my older sister Mara, her 4 kids, and her endless emergencies, without the woman who pays for half their life showing up and ruining the illusion. I swallowed hard. Okay, I said, if that's what you want. Emma glanced up, eyes searching my face. I turned away so she wouldn't see my jaw clench. Mom sounded surprised that I didn't argue. Don't make this a thing, Melissa. It's just dinner. Right, I said, just dinner. We hung up. I stood in the kitchen for a long time with the dial tone still buzzing in my ear, even though the call had ended. I put my phone down, walked over to Emma, and smoothed her hair. Everything okay? She asked. Yeah, baby, everything's fine. I lied with a smile I hoped she believed. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the edge of my bed and finally let myself feel it. The humiliation, the familiar sting of being the optional child, even when I'm the one keeping their lights on. I thought about the last few years, when their AC unit died in July and I covered the whole $3,200 repair. When Mara's minivan was repossessed and somehow I was making payments for a car I didn't drive. The late night calls, the just this once money transfers that turned into a monthly expectation. I'm the one with the good job. Project engineer at a mid-size firm. I pay my own mortgage. I pack Emma's lunches. I track every dollar in a spreadsheet because nobody else in this family understands consequences. Responsible, that's what they called it. ATM would have been more honest. We made our own Thanksgiving plan. I told Emma we'd do our own cozy dinner at home, just the 2 of us. Girls' Day. She lit up like I'd offered her Disneyland. Can we make the chicken with the crunchy skin? Rotisserie style? You got it. Our oven's too small for a turkey anyway, I said, pretending that was the only reason. Thanksgiving morning, we stayed in pajamas. She drew a giant construction paper turkey for the table centerpiece. We played music while we cooked. Chicken instead of turkey, box stuffing we dressed up with onions and herbs, canned cranberry sauce that still held the shape of the can. She set the table with mismatched plates and folded paper napkins like fancy restaurant fans. It wasn't sad. Not yet. It was sweet, warm, like our own little island. We ate until we were full. Chocolate smudged at the corner of her mouth, laughter echoing off the walls of our small living room. For a moment, I let myself believe this was enough. Just us. Around 8:30 p.m., after Emma curled up next to me on the couch and drifted off mid-movie, I made the mistake. I opened Facebook. Just muscle memory. Thumb sliding, brain on autopilot. Notifications. Ads. A video of a dog wearing a sweater. And then, my mother's dining room. Full spread. Giant golden turkey. Baked mac and cheese. 3 different pies. The good china they only brought out for real family occasions. In one photo, my parents smiled at the head of the table. In another, I saw all 4 of Mara's kids, faces sticky with gravy and frosting. In another, Mara's husband, Aaron, was helping in the kitchen, holding a glass of wine, laughing. They hadn't kept it small. They hadn't kept it just adults. They had brought out folding tables and extra chairs. I scrolled and saw the patio, string lights glowing, space heaters humming in the backyard. It looked like a magazine spread of perfect family Thanksgiving. Perfect. Without me. Without Emma. My chest tightened. I felt my heartbeat thudding in my ears. I kept scrolling, like maybe I'd find a photo where we were suddenly there, tucked into a corner, Emma with a plate in her lap. Of course, there wasn't one. Beside me, Emma stirred. My phone's light flickered across her face. She blinked up at the screen, still half asleep. "Mom," she whispered, voice small, "is that Grammy's house?" "Yeah, baby," I whispered back, throat suddenly dry. She squinted, studying the photo. "Those are Mara's kids." Her brow furrowed. She saw the table, the food, the crowd. Why weren't we there? Something inside me snapped so quietly it almost didn't feel like anger. Just a clean, sharp line cutting through years of being used. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just felt everything go still. I kissed her forehead. "Go back to sleep, sweetheart. I'll be right here." She nodded, trusting me, and closed her eyes. I opened my messages. At the top of my thread with Mom, a photo I'd taken a few days earlier stared back at me. The utility bill she'd sent me, $2,800 past due, with the usual message, "Can you cover this just for now? We'll pay you back when things get better." They never did. They never even tried. I hit forward, attached the screenshot in a new message to her, and typed just one line beneath it. "Consider it cut off." My thumb hovered for a second. Once I pressed send, there was no going back to the version of me who swallowed everything. I hit send. I put the phone face down. I tucked Emma in properly, carried her to her room, brushed the hair from her cheeks. My hands were steady, my mind wasn't. I went to bed without checking for a reply. By morning, my phone looked like it had been in a war. 37 missed calls from Mara, 5 from Mom, 3 from Dad, 2 from an aunt I only hear from when there's gossip. No voicemails, just calls. Like if they could catch me live, they could still pull me back into their script. By noon, the messages started. "You're overreacting." Mom. "Don't punish the whole family over a misunderstanding." Mom again. "A misunderstanding." I almost laughed. They hadn't forgotten to invite us. They'd designed a whole different holiday. I ignored everything. I made Emma lunch. We watched a movie. I tried to feel normal, but there was a new, strange quiet inside me, the kind that comes right before a storm breaks. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed with a new message from an unfamiliar number. For a second, I thought it was spam. It was from Aaron. "I'm sorry about yesterday, you're not wrong." My heart dropped into my stomach. So he knew. And if he was apologizing, that meant there was more to this than my parents were willing to say. Before I could decide what to write back, the doorbell rang. Emma was in the backyard, playing with a plastic dinosaur, humming to herself. I wiped my hands on a dish towel and opened the door. Mara stood on my porch, no warning, no appointment, eyes wide and red-rimmed, like she'd been crying or practicing looking like she had. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me without waiting for an answer. "You can't do this, Melissa. You have no idea what you've started." And from the way her voice shook, not with guilt, but with fear, I realized something. I hadn't just cut off their money. I'd pulled the first loose thread in a fabric of lies I didn't even know existed yet. Mara barged into my living room like she owned the air inside it. She didn't look angry. She looked terrified in that brittle, self-centered way she always did when her comfort was threatened. "You can't just cut Mom and Dad off like that," she said, pacing immediately, hair falling out of her messy bun. "They're devastated, Melissa. Mom didn't sleep all night. Dad's furious. You really hurt them." I leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, keeping my voice calm. "You hurt them too." She stopped pacing. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You and your family were there last night," I said slowly, each word sharp. "You knew Emma and I weren't invited. You still went." She rolled her eyes, actually rolled them, like I was being dramatic for pointing out the obvious. "It wasn't my place to say anything," she answered. "Mom planned it. I just went along with it." Same excuse she'd used since we were kids. Mara has always been the one who goes with whatever benefits her. It's practically her religion. When she was 19, she moved back home twice in 1 year. When she was 24, she quit her job because her boss looked at her wrong. When she was 28, she convinced my parents to buy the house she currently lives in for the grandkids. When she was 31, she started a business selling handmade soaps, spent $11,000 of our parents' money, and shut it down in 4 months. And every time she failed at something, the family would swoop in to catch her. I was usually the net they landed on. You know, I said, you could have told Mom it wasn't right. You could have said something, anything. Her face hardened. I don't get in the middle of stuff. And besides, you would have complained about the noise or the kids or something. I've never complained about your kids, I snapped. Or about anything. I help. That's all I've ever done. Her jaw clenched at that, because she knew it was true. She took a deep breath, shifting tactics. Look, Mom is scared. She says she doesn't know what you're trying to prove by all this. You're punishing the whole family. Punishing? I echoed, shocked at the word. They excluded my daughter. That was Mom's call, she insisted. Don't take it out on all of us. All of us didn't object. Her mouth trembled, but there was no apology behind it, only frustration. Fine, she said, grabbing her purse like this was beneath her. If you want to make a scene and ruin the holiday for everyone, that's on you. But just know Mom is wrecked. Dad thinks you're being petty. Petty. There it was. The word that had been thrown at me my entire life whenever I dared to have a boundary. I'm not paying for anything else, I said, quiet but firm. Not Mom and Dad's bills. Not your car repairs. Not the electric bill at your house. Nothing. Mara froze. You can't do that, she whispered. You know we struggle. You know. I know you've taken advantage of me for years, I cut in. Well, that ends today. She swallowed hard, eyes darting toward the door like she needed escape. Mom said this would happen, she murmured. She said the moment you got a boyfriend, you'd get selfish. There it was, the shot she was aiming for. She always brought up my personal life when cornered. Yes, I had a boyfriend. Daniel, steady and kind, who had nothing to do with this. But it made sense that my mother would weaponize his existence. In her eyes, any happiness I found was a threat to their control. Before I could respond, Mara's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and went pale. I have to go, she said, rushing out the door. Dad wants a family call. You'd better answer. I didn't. That night, after putting Emma to bed, I opened the folder on my laptop labeled Fam Docs. I kept everything. Every receipt, every bank transfer, every Venmo and Zelle screenshot, every text asking for just a little help. And years ago, after an especially ugly argument with my mother, I'd gotten in the habit of recording phone calls using an app. Not for revenge, for my sanity. Gaslighting is easier when the target doesn't have proof. I wasn't sure what I was looking for tonight. Strength, validation, maybe just confirmation that I wasn't crazy. And then I found it. A voice memo from 6 months ago, one I didn't even remember recording. I clicked play. The audio crackled for a moment. Then Mara's voice filled the room, slurred and angry. I swear, Mom and Dad act like they're saints for helping us, she complained to someone in the background. They give grocery money and expect a parade. And Melissa? She thinks she's better than us just because she knows how to pay her bills. My jaw tightened. They're all useless, she went on. If their help is so damn sacred, they should give real help instead of scraps. Honestly, if Melissa ever stopped paying things, I'd just fake a crisis and get Mom to handle it. The person she was ranting to asked something I couldn't hear. Mara laughed. A sharp, ugly sound I'd never forget. Oh, please, I'm the golden child. They'll never turn on me. When the recording ended, I sat there staring at my dim laptop screen. There it was, in her own words. The truth my family always pretended didn't exist. I didn't hesitate. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house. Not to argue, not to fix anything, but to show them exactly what they'd raised. Mom opened the door with a nervous smile. Honey, we can talk this through, okay? You're just sensitive. You misunderstood. I didn't misunderstand anything. I walked past her into the living room, where Dad sat with the TV muted, arms crossed like a judge waiting to deliver a verdict. I'm here to draw a line, I said. Dad sighed. You're punishing the family over something petty, Melissa. I pulled out my phone. Let's talk about petty. I hit play. Mara's voice poured out into the room. Bitter, mocking, dripping with contempt for the very people who defended her. Mom's face drained of color. Dad leaned forward, stunned, eyes narrowing as if he'd just been slapped. When the recording ended, silence swallowed the room whole. She's been feeding off all of us, I said quietly. She uses you, she uses me, and she laughs about it. Neither of them spoke. I forwarded the file to both their phones, then slipped my keys back into my purse. I'm done, I said softly. I'm not your bank, I'm not your scapegoat, and I won't let Emma grow up thinking this is what family means. I walked out before they could say anything. Mom called after me, something about talking later, but I didn't turn around. As I got into the car, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail notification. It was from Mara. She didn't leave messages often, which meant this one would be important. But before I could listen, I noticed something stuck to my front door when I pulled into my driveway. A thick, official-looking envelope. No return address. I opened it right on the porch. A letter from a law office. Not a real lawsuit, more like a threat. A formal request for repayment of so-called family loans totaling $42,000. Loans that never existed. My parents had flipped the script, rewritten history, turned me into the dependent daughter who owed them. I was still holding the letter when I saw a second envelope on the mat. This one handwritten, from Aaron. Inside was a USB drive. And a single note. I'm sorry, Mara crossed the line. You deserve the truth. For a long moment, I just stood there on my porch, holding the two envelopes, one filled with lies, the other with something worse. The truth I'd been too exhausted to even guess at. Emma was inside, humming to herself as she arranged her dinosaur figurines. The house felt warm, safe. The air outside felt sharp, electric, like the universe had just changed direction and I hadn't caught up yet. I locked the door behind me, set the envelopes on the kitchen table, and waited until Emma went to bed before I plugged the USB drive into my laptop. There was a single audio file. It opened with laughter, Mara's laughter. Not drunk laughter, not stressed laughter, but the cold, confident kind she saved for when she thought she'd won something. Then her voice. Honestly, I can't believe how easy it was to get Mom to cut Melissa out of Thanksgiving. I told her it would be too much work with the kids, and she jumped on it. I just acted sad and overwhelmed. Boom, Emma's out. My chest tightened. Aaron must have been recording this without her noticing. The audio was clear, crisp, horrifying. Mara kept talking. And Melissa? She'll just suck it up like she always does. If she gets mad, I'll cry a little, make it about the kids. Works every time. Another voice, male, hesitated. Isn't that messed up? Mara scoffed. Please, Melissa owes me. She owes all of us. Without me, Mom and Dad would smother her with their expectations. I give her someone to blame so she can play victim in peace. My hand curled into a fist. Owes me, she repeated. After everything I've done for her, she should be grateful I take the spotlight. Besides, she's obsessed with being the good one. She'll pay whatever bill we hand her just to keep her halo straight. She paused, took a sip of something based on the clink of ice in the glass. And if she ever stops, I forged those hospital papers once. I can forge more. Dad signs anything if you hand it to him fast enough. He co-signed that loan because I said it was for a down payment. He never even asked to see the house. The man's voice came back uneasy. But wasn't it for a watch? She laughed, loud, cruel. Yeah, and he still hasn't figured it out. The recording ended abruptly, like Aaron had finally had enough. I sat back in my chair, breath shaking. That wasn't just manipulation. That wasn't just selfishness. That was strategy. And it had been aimed at me for years. I sent the file to my parents, Mara and Aaron, with one line. Play with the volume up. Then I closed my laptop and went to bed. By noon the next day, my phone had nearly overheated from the missed calls. Mom, 12 calls. Dad, 8. Mara, 23. Aaron, 2. Unknown numbers, probably extended family, ready to shame me into forgiveness. I ignored them all. It wasn't avoidance anymore. It was peace. Around 4 p.m., I heard a car door slam outside. I looked through the window. Dad? He stood on the porch, shoulders slumped, eyes older than I'd ever seen them. I opened the door before he knocked. He held no anger, no threat, just devastation. I heard it, he said quietly, all of it. I didn't speak. I didn't comfort him. I didn't step aside. He swallowed hard. Your mother and I, we believed her. Everything she said about you, that you were overreacting, that you were jealous, that you thought Emma was better than her kids, we believed it because it was easier. His voice cracked. It was easier than admitting she's been using us, using you, for years. I said nothing. I'd said everything already. We're not asking for forgiveness, he whispered. I'm not here to fix this. I just needed you to know we're not blind anymore. He took a breath that shook his whole frame. And I'm sorry, Melissa. It was the first real apology he'd given me in 15 years. He walked away without waiting for an answer. I didn't cry, but something inside me unclenched. 2 hours later, Aaron called. He didn't skirt around it. I'm leaving her, he said. I took the kids to my sister's, and I found a savings account she never told me about. She's been slipping money into it for years while pretending we were drowning. I thought you should know. Thank you, I said, because he had been the only one in the entire mess who'd tried to do something right. She won't take accountability, he added. She said you deserved to be left out, said you had it coming. There was a long pause. Then he whispered, "I'm so sorry." After we hung up, I sat in the living room, surrounded by silence that didn't feel like a threat anymore. Just space. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Mara. "Congrats. Hope you enjoy watching the family fall apart." I didn't reply. Because it wasn't falling apart. It was finally being rebuilt without the rot. Later that night, Daniel, my boyfriend, came over. He wrapped his arms around me the second he walked through the door. "You okay?" he asked softly. I rested my forehead against his chest. "I think so. For the first time, maybe ever." We stood like that a while in the quiet, in the safety. He kissed the top of my head. "Whatever happens next, you're not doing it alone." I believed him. 2 days later, I found the final piece of the puzzle. A second voice memo stored in an old phone backup. Recorded months ago. Mara's voice again, but different this time. Not mocking, not angry. Cold. Calculated. "I'm waiting until I have enough saved to disappear," she told someone. "Leave the kids with Aaron for a while. Let mom and dad think I'm having a breakdown. They'll send money like crazy. And once I'm settled, I'll come back with some sob story. Melissa will pick up the rest. She always does." I sat in stunned silence as the audio ended. This was never about a holiday. This was never about me being too sensitive. This wasn't even about money. Not really. This was Mara's plan. Her exit strategy. Her escape funded by the people she used like ATMs. I printed the transcript, copied the audio to 3 separate drives, put one envelope in my parents' mailbox, and waited. The next morning, Mom called. Her voice was hollow, shaken, small. "We confronted her," she said. She didn't deny it, not a single word. Dad got on the line, voice steady but tired. "We're cutting her off, completely. No more money, no more lies. We should have listened to you years ago." Mom took a ragged breath. "We want to make it right with you and with Emma." I didn't make promises, but for the first time, it felt like the ground beneath my feet wasn't shifting. It felt solid, safe, real. That night, Emma curled up beside me as we watched a movie. Her head on my shoulder, her breath warm and steady. Family didn't fall apart. It was rebuilt. Just with the right people this time.